Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we discuss all things leadership and organizational culture. I'm your host, Steph Garcia-Cichosz, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Lindsay Jaffe, Senior Associate AD for Sport Administration at USC. Lindsay, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. Thanks for having me. Super excited to join you today.
It's a busy time for the Trojans, for you, for all of college athletics, but I want to start at the beginning. Talk to me about your journey in sport. You are a soccer student athlete. I know you went through some challenges along the way. You played at App State. Talk to me about the role that resilience has played in the shaping of you as a leader and your journey in sport.
Yeah, of course. First and foremost, just like college athletics is just such an amazing thing that changed my life. And so starting from the beginning is definitely where we need to begin. Had the opportunity to start my soccer career after obviously the high school session at Appalachian State. So go Mountaineers. Always will be a Mountaineer at heart. Through that journey was 3 different head coaches, and it allowed me the opportunity to connect with my athletic director right away early on in my career. And he is the current AD at Georgia State. And I'll always say that he was my number one mentor and the number one reason that I got into this business. He'll always laugh when I say that, but that's the honest truth. Sat down with him and he just genuinely asked me, like, what are you doing with your life? And what do you want to be and do? And I'm like, I don't even know what college athletics is, like, in terms of the administrative side. Is it a business? Is there jobs in this? Like, all I knew was compliance. There was a compliance person with a stack of 45 pieces of paper that I had to sign. And that's all I knew. And so he was like, 100%. And so he did recommend getting my secondary degree. And he didn't really say anything specific, but he was like, you should get it. And you should just maximize that secondary space from a college level. And then from there, I was an intern at UNC Greensboro. And then I went to Florida Atlantic. And then from there, my mentor at UNC Greensboro was like, come to the NCAA Rules Convention and you can come with me and I'll bring you around. And I did that out of like, I'm not going to lie, wasn't really all that comfortable, but I did it. And I went up to Atlanta in 2012 and met a bunch of different people. And I came home, sent all my follow-up emails like you're taught. And I landed a job at the University of Cincinnati in November of 2012. And then my second mentor came into play, which was Maggie McKinley, who stuck her neck out for me. I was super young. I was an assistant director of compliance at the University of Cincinnati, which then shaped me into honestly who and what I am today. And that servant leadership was built from there. But I had an amazing tenure at the University of Cincinnati. I mean, I've done everything from cleaning dorm rooms to stocking water till midnight to open arenas the next day, serving and giving back to the student athlete population. And then I've been out at USC, it's crazy to say, but 5.5 years, overseeing, I have 11 sports, student conduct, Title IX, and Office of Professional and Ethics. And so it's been a ride. I always couch it up to like someone served and gave back to me as a student athlete. And the only thing I can do and the only thing I know is to serve and give back to the next generation of young people to hopefully shape their lives and make, the future of this country better. And I think that's what hopefully the collegiate model will, continue to evolve and continue to still have, the plot being that student athletes change everyone's lives and they end up shaping obviously the future of this country.
Oh my gosh, there is so much in there. I wanna take you back to that beginning one more time. You mentioned that the AD sat down with you very early, and I get it. The coaching changes. I was a student athlete. I also went through lots of coaching changes. Unlike you, our athletic director never sat me down personally. I'm really curious. Now that you've had years of being an administrator, a senior level administrator, you've worked with so many different teams. Thinking back to that moment when the AD, sat you down and talked to you one-on-one, Do you think that at that moment he saw something within you as a, from a leadership perspective, from a, you had this good head on your shoulders? Like, as you think about the student athletes you see today, do you kind of recognize that? Like, you can probably tell there are some student athletes that just like it clicks for them that this could be a pathway.
We should call him and ask him. But I do. He allowed me into, meetings and projects while I was a student athlete in the free time that I did have. And I think that was it. He saw just my body language and how I was approaching every meeting and the seriousness that I took. It's just, I think it's in my everyday nature. I wake up and I'm very routine and oriented, and like I just have a go, like I'm gonna break glass ceilings and I'm just gonna figure out a way to do it. So I think the answer is yes. And in today's student athletes, you can totally tell, like the ones that are gonna maximize the opportunity and just sit in the chair one day and whatever that passion they have, you can see it. But to I'm kind of I don't know. I don't like to honestly like toot my own horn. I'm not good at that, and my guess is yes.
It's interesting. I, again, as in my student athlete journey, I think we're about the same age and in the same era. I had no idea what was behind the scenes. I remember finally meeting our sport administrator my fourth or fifth year, competing, and realizing, oh, there is this like mechanism, just like you mentioned, like it's more than just the trainers, it's more than just the compliance person. There's this whole ecosystem behind us. What made you go the compliance route?
But when it was, I started marketing for a week. I lasted 1 week. Um, Clearly, I'm not the one that was gonna throw out the t-shirts and get the crowd hyped up. My dad's a lawyer, my mom's a psychologist, and so like I learned quickly that was not going to be it. And so I sat down with UNC Greensboro and they're like, we can slide you over into compliance. Like it might serve you better. It was 100% the right move at the time. So I started learning and growing in that space 1 week after not making it in the marketing area. Um, I'm by the book. I like the bylaws, and I like black and white. I love gray, but I'm just not one that really was going to be all that successful, hyping up crowds and getting the juice flowing. So compliance, and then I just have a passion for serving. And so that's when I created my own student services shop at the University of Cincinnati. So financial literacy, back when like they didn't exist. And I got into international services and missions, learning I-20s and CVIS transfers, and that just felt good. The student athletes just being in the office and helping them through their problems and solving for them, and working with coaches and finding the gray area. Had the fortunate nature of working with Cincinnati football when they made that great run, and you just kind of love the space of helping and growing people, and that's where I found my niche. Still to this day, right? I lean into doing that and showing up for others, and I just find that that's where my joy lies.
I'm interested in your bachelor's degree in psychology. You mentioned your mom works in that space. How do you incorporate that into your work, especially, with student athletes, with head coaches, with your fellow administrators?
Everyone's different, and I think that's really important to take a step back and remember that I have 8 head coaches, 300 student athletes just under my current purview, and then your campus partners are another population that just work in different wavelengths, and you have to be able to be nimble and flexible, but also being able to hold your ground. And I think at the end of the day, I just did a professional development session on leading high performing teams, and it starts with relationships. It starts with love, care, and empathy, grace, respect. But I hold a firm line. I have a high standard for myself, and I always tell my student athletes and my coaches, like, I'm not hypocritical. Like, it's a full circle system. I hold your coaches accountable. I hold you guys accountable. In the same way I'd hold myself accountable. So I use it in every day how I show up to meetings. I study who's in the room. I study how their body language is. Where's your moment to step in? Where's your moment to not step in? But I wholeheartedly believe that like psychology and human intel like is such a key in this space. And to be successful in anything that you do, I think it's like the number one thing.
I love that. And this is a great transition. I'm so curious about so many different aspects of your role right now with the Trojans. So I'm going to dive into a couple of them. One thing you did was help to develop the department's sport administrator manual. And as you mentioned, you oversee several sports, lots of different things going at different times of the year. You also helped to implement the annual competitive excellence analysis. So what would you define as key qualities for an effective sport administrator, and how can they maximize those qualities to get the most out of their head coach?
Yeah, I think it's taking a step back and being a great listener first and foremost, especially when you're beginning in this space. My first sport administration experience was at the University of Cincinnati in swimming and diving, and I didn't know what I didn't know. I still don't know what I don't know, and I'm very honest about that. But being authentic and just showing up, listening, hearing what they're going through, because every coach has a different, set of standards, expectations, what they're trying to achieve, what's their student athlete population is like. So you can't treat everybody the same, and you can't always hold the same standard and expectation because it's just unrealistic. And so when you take a step back and you just start by listening and hearing where they're at, then you can meet them where they are, but then you have to facilitate their blind spots. And I firmly believe that being a sport administrator is filling in the blind spots for your coaches and then building that relationship to where you can show where they are. Because if you can't have an honest dialogue with your coaches to fill in the blind spots, you're never going to see the success on the end of whatever season they have to whatever they're trying to accomplish, because coaches they stay here and there's so much more going on every single day that you have to be that facilitator. And so I firmly believe that sport administrators have to formulate relationships at the highest level to then hold them accountable with whatever you're trying to achieve from a holistic department standpoint, meet missions, values, all of those things as well. But I firmly believe it's holding relationships and then setting standards and expectations based on what your athletic director is looking for, and then from directly communicating what those are so that they know what they are, their student athletes know what they are, and their assistant coaches and support staff know what they are. But I just think being honest, being direct, and having really healthy dialogue is all from having a really deep relationship, which is trust and love over time. And it's not going to be 1 week, 2 weeks. It's going to take months, sometimes years, because your coaches have gone through so many different things that you don't know. And so breaking into some of them is much more complicated.
Talk to me about having to shift your communication style to match different coaching styles and even the other administrators that you kind of oversee and manage.
Yeah, some of my coaches can handle just like direct, and if you're not direct, it doesn't even resonate. So, and then you can't be as direct with some of them because they might have a more emotional internal being. And so with my 8 head coaches, I'm 8 different people. I don't expect them to change for me. I have to change for them. And the same as with my coworkers, it's me and 7 other administrators who are leading teams and programs. It's the same for them. I can't speak to each of them the same way either, because I'm not going to get the most out of them if I do that. There's some that I can be really direct and honest, and then in terms of what I'm trying to achieve, and then I still can be honest, but I have to be much more like, it's not direct, it's just another form of like my word choices, but I'm always honest. It's just your words like can be different in terms of how you have to portray them, because they're going to land differently depending on the human that you're working with. But yeah, I change for others. I don't expect them to change for me.
I have to ask, thinking through being 8 different people, maybe in the course of a single day, and then of course being another version perhaps for the student athletes or for your, the team that you're working with or for your AD. How do you like reset? How do you like shake the what is that toy called where the etch a sketch? How do you shake the etch a sketch and just kind of be the purest version of yourself?
Yeah, so recently, a couple of years ago, when our new AD came in, she definitely preaches like finding balance. And I've always, no one's takes my workout, like that's been a thing since inception. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm like a little bit more addicted now than ever before. I start my day and end my day with yoga. Um, in a really hot room, and there's no phones and there's no mirrors, and you are with yourself, and you shut your brain off and you reset. So I reset in the mornings, I reset in the evenings. I definitely get in back on my computer after I get back home, but there's 2 hours of my day when I'm not on my phone. You cannot talk to me, and that has really brought me to a space where like being able to ebb and flow in the other 9 hours that I'm on, or like I've learned that that's my space and that's my opportunity to reset and recharge, to be able to work within how many different people I have to navigate each day. Because it's a lot, but I love it and I wouldn't change it for the world. I get to work with amazing people. I have amazing coaches. Our leadership team is incredible. And I think ultimately why you get into this business is to serve, and you can't forget that. Can't lose the plot. It's taken time, obviously in the evolution of college athletics, but can't lose the plot. I don't let people steal my joy. I just show up and make sure that I always remember that you're here to serve and give back, and you've chosen this, and you might as well, show up with that excitement and joy to change other people's lives. But I definitely have taken that opportunity to show up for myself in the mornings and the evenings at a different level now.
Yeah, that's so valuable. Um, Another aspect of your role with the Trojans is, I'm going to quote this, includes goal setting, performance management, budget planning. I'm curious about that goal setting aspect. What does that look like?
Yeah, I start with just asking my coaches like, what are their dreams and aspirations for the year? It's not about me. I never come to this desk and say, "Oh, Lindsay, what is your like?" It's not. It's how can I maximize my coaches in every which way. So I always put it back in their corner. It's like, what are you guys looking to achieve, and then where can I fit in to help you get there? So they draft them all, right? And like I said, it goes back to like every sport is different. Every head coach has different wants and needs that they're looking to achieve. But I just start the year. What is your dream and aspiration for the year? Some are black and white, right? If you're talking to my water polo coach, he will tell you, I'm winning a national championship, and there is nothing more you're ever going to change from that man's brand. And that's cool. Like, how can I serve and how can I make sure that your blind spots that you're going to run through are going to be covered? And he will always say, when you see him, just tell me. And that's our relationship. It's very black and white, and we get to have that type of space. Some of my coaches, it's more like, I'm looking to achieve, postseason success and have an amazing student athlete experience, right? And so, okay, great. How do we draft that out, and how do we hone in on making sure that is something that we accomplish? And if you do win the national championship, awesome, right? They're not going to preach it every day, and they're not going to say that's how they're going to do it. They're going to work off of process. They're going to work off of, a more holistic approach. Awesome. So we sit down and do it that way. So it's really just sitting down and making sure you fit where you need to fit within the scope of what your coach's dream and aspiration for the program is. But I put it on them. They're leaders, and that's what they're hired to do. And but helping them achieve that is obviously something that you show up to try to do with them. And it brings the joy, right? When they're winning or when they're losing, it's where do you find your place to help them get out of their funk, or but dreams and goals, I believe in them. Put the sticky note on the wall, look at it every day, and I believe you'll eventually achieve it if you keep, pouring into it and being nimble and being flexible and changing when it's not working. And I just think that's a huge part of being a great leader.
One other aspect, there's many aspects of your role, but one other one I was very curious about is that you help to lead the national searches for head coaches and you also support contract negotiations. What is one thing that some younger administrators who have not had the opportunity to do those things, what would they be surprised to learn about those processes?
Agents are tough. Um, they're tough. So you gotta know what your end goal is from your leader, and make sure that whatever which way you need to get there, you get there. But agents are definitely hard. You have to navigate. That's their everyday. It's not my everyday. Um, I did grow up in a family. I have my dad's a lawyer, my brother's a lawyer, so I'm not naive to at least the nature of how to be right. But agents are hard, and then you have to always remember your coach's relationship. Is something that you always have to keep in the back of your mind, because you're you're navigating their agent, but at the same time, every single day that you come to the office, you're navigating your coach and your relationship. But as a young administrator, I would say, like, that's where the compliance piece really helped me out. Like, you got to be able to be comfortable in your skin. Because you say no. I've said no since I was 23 years old. Um, and so now being in this space, saying no is a little easy. But navigating agents and making sure you understand, though, what your leader is looking to have their end goal at. And you can't waver. You gotta have 2 feet on the ground, be comfortable in your skin, and just navigate and go back and forth, and know that it's going to take a little bit of time, because the best agents aren't going to take your first response.
Ooh, that's a tough one. That makes a lot of sense. And clearly, you guys are doing it right at USC with so many, national championships, conference championships that have happened during your time there. You mentioned you've been there for 5 years. You were part of the department before now AD Jen Cohen took the chair. And of course, she brought some of her team over from UW. Talk to me about that leadership transition and how the energy or the culture of the department has evolved during Jen's tenure.
Yeah, Jen had us read the book The Advantage. It's on high performing teams and culture. And we drafted from there our playbook, and we never waver. And I think what's so awesome and amazing is women in this industry, right? I think a lot of us want to break glass ceilings and show other women that, these chairs can be held by really awesome women and powerful women. And that's the best part, every day coming and seeing a woman lead the chair, and not have any waver in her belief of what she's trying to do. And I think that's the biggest change, right? I had men in the chair every other place I've been in, and they're amazing mentors, and I love each and every one of them for what they gave me and provided me. The same way, like, I've just been so fortunate to see Jen lead a navigating right in this new era, with such confidence and such an ability to challenge just the unknown every day. And so that's been the best part, is just being able to be around a woman who leads with confidence, leads with an unwavering belief in others, and she pours into me every day. I'm super, super lucky. I couldn't ask for someone to care about me more, and what I get to do every day, but also just she's in my corner to figure out how and what I need to be successful, and wherever I want to go, she's gonna be my biggest advocate. So I think ultimately for me, I'm just so lucky to be able to come to work every day with a woman that pours into me, and she pours into the whole department in the same capacity. It's just I get to be one of those people that I just show up every day and I get to feel it. Her office is literally right next to mine, so I can't. I see her every day. But I'm super fortunate, and I think if you get to be around her, you would understand what that means and feels like. But she's amazing, and I'm so lucky.
How have you incorporated any of those elements from her leadership style into your own leadership philosophy?
Yeah, for one, it's just being able to stand up for yourself. Like, right is right and wrong is wrong. And I think sometimes as females, right, we might question that a little bit more than others. And because I've got to see that in every, every way of how she leads, it definitely makes you more comfortable in your approach to right and wrong, standing up to people, and making sure that you don't waver in that. I think it's healthy to see that, right? Being and watching men do that, it just comes naturally. It's not as natural for women to just have that in their wheelhouse. And so to see another woman do it every day in the chair makes you so much more comfortable in how you can show up and be more confident and how you execute whatever you're looking to execute that day. The other thing that she's just been so keen on too is just the high performing culture within the department. The playbook that she created, that obviously she started at Washington, brought to USC, it definitely hones in on, living and breathing your behaviors and whatever those are that you create at your department. You hire to them, you fire to them, etc. That's been a really interesting process, and I think that's one that I firmly believe in high performing teams, and you can do that with your coaches too. And so it translates in so many which ways. But she brought that, from the book she made us read, obviously on day one, and I think that's been a huge help and tool for our department and where we're trying to go and what we're trying to be in navigating, and while we're navigating this landscape change.
As we start to wrap up here, I want to kind of tie or thread the needle with this high performing team concept, and take it back to what I know, which is track and field. So USC won back-to-back titles, indoor and outdoor, back in 2025. And track is such a unique sport. There's all these different disciplines that have to work together for the team score. What's the secret sauce to that success, the success that they had last year, the success that they're having this year? And from the perspective of a sport administrator, how does this illustrate the value of Olympic sports in this, rev share NIL era?
Well, I can't tell you the secret sauce because then, come on, Steph. But I do say there's no one way to win a national championship. I've been a part of a couple, super fortunate for that. But I do tell all my coaches, like, there's not one way. So if you're looking at, Quincy Watts and how he did it, it's not going to be the way you're going to do it. But track and field, wow, what a beast of a sport, right? It's so fascinating. I was with a recruit the other day, and our coach was like, he runs the 100 at 9.9, and I'm like, how do you know I know that? And he's like, oh, I know. And the dad starts laughing, and but that's just like being a part of it, right? Mastering your sport as a sport administrator, it is part of just being able to show up and show that you care. The secret sauce to that building was a long time coming, right? I got to be with Quincy Watts from the day he, accepted the job in Springfield, Oregon. I'll never forget. We're at Outback Steakhouse, coming off of 2021's national championship, actually. My first one, maybe second, but and we've been through it thick and thin, and I think being with him and building it with him, he didn't do it alone, and I think that's the biggest part, right? It's who you're surrounded by, who you choose to be at your boardroom. He's got great staffs in place for what he needed, and he took a little bit of time to figure that out. Then he revamped his roster because it just was something that wasn't going to work for his style, and so took a couple years to do that, but sat down, reflected, grew over the course of the last couple of years. And then his staff executed what he was looking to achieve. But it takes time, it takes reflection, it takes a lot of self-awareness. And then, man, that was like, last year was incredible. I think he would say, like, he accomplished his first dream, and now it's how do we accomplish like the next set of all the dreams. And I think, right, we have the gateway to the Olympics is what they're saying in their sport. Our track's going to be the LA 2028 Olympic track. We've had former track Olympians, we have current track Olympians. Man, we got Allison Felix coming out of retirement, and she's around all the time. And so I think what it means is that you can't lose the plot. And I'm a person of, right, I came up the Olympic model. I'm an Olympic sport retired athlete. So are you, but it changes our lives. And I think that's right. The most important part, don't lose the plot. All of us matter. And it just is a reflection of just like continue to pour into young people, continue to pour into making sure you're maximizing their opportunities. And remember that at the end of the day, like that's why we all signed up for this business. And I do believe that continuing to focus on changing young people's lives in all sports is a huge reason that the United States has this model. Like we're the only country in the world that has this model. Like we can't lose the plot. We got to remember that education is king, and it's going to change young people's lives in all different, sports. And so let's take a step back and remember the plot, and remember that all of us in the rooms that we get to sit in are the reason that these students get to change their life and grow and become whatever they want to, become. Sport Olympians, CEOs of businesses and corporations, and we get to watch that every single day.
Oh man, cheers to that for sure. I'll just finish with one, lighthearted question. Since you were a student athlete, you've been close with this track team. I do want to know, what event would you do if you had to go back and be a track athlete?
Well, my first day at the University of Southern California, I walked up to the track to go just like watch practice or something, and I think Quincy was actually like, "Who's that 800-meter recruit out there?" So I'm just gonna go by stature and the way I like showed up. That I guess the 800 is where I'd shine. So I'm gonna stick to it because it's ingrained that that's what they all thought I was when I walked out to the track day one, and we just make that. I would try to break the 2-minute mark.
Oh, you definitely could, especially if you had, Coach Brenda Martinez working with you.
No doubt.
Amazing. I love that. The 800 is one of the best events. I'm biased, but Lindsay Jaffe, Senior Associate AD at USC. Thank you so much for spending some time with us, for giving us all of this great insight. You're an inspiration. Thank you for all that you do for college athletics.
Yeah, thanks, Steph.
This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.